General Hyten, the Air Force has requested funding for a wideband SATCOM AOA. I think that's perfectly appropriate. And then we received information and news reports about the Air Force purchasing additional legacy satellites, WGS satellites. How do we make sure that we as a country are taking advantage of the technological advances happening in the commercial sector? Of course, the AOA is what I thought what that was for, and now it doesn't necessarily appear that that's going to be the case. Can you share with us how you plan to make sure that we're taking advantage of the commercial advancements?
Yes, Congressman, thank you. Thank you for the question. The real issue there is that the AOA is going to answer those questions. We have not made a commitment yet to build any more WGS satellites, not one, not two, not three. We haven't made any commitment along those lines. We won't make any commitments about what we're going to build next until we've done the analysis of alternatives. The analysis of alternatives is being structured through the staff right now. One of my panel members may be able to comment on those, especially those that work in the Pentagon. But it's critical that that AOA look at it across the board, and we're going to be demanding customers of the AOA to make sure that the commercial sector is properly looked at across the board, not just from a provision of capability standpoint, but from an opportunity to provide different capabilities that we may not think about. So that AOA is critical to defining the future. We're putting those, we want to make sure that that's done in a very time-certain environment. We hope to get it done by March of 17 so we can meet the congressional direction there. That's going to be a fast time to do an AOA, but the faster we do AOAs, the better they are, because AOAs that take a long time tend to be somewhat irrelevant by the time they're reported out.
Got it. And Secretary Livero, we've heard cost estimates from commercial operators and, of course, from the Department of Defense on WGS, and it doesn't seem to add up that we're getting apples-to-apples comparisons. Can you help us make sure that we're going to get apples-to-apples comparisons on the cost of commercial vice military-owned and operated satellites?
Absolutely. We have got to go ahead and do an apples-to-apples comparison. We've got to go ahead and include all the costs that are relevant to things like WGS. That is not always easy to do because some of those costs are at third and fourth level, but we have to go ahead and do that because otherwise we'll get a skewed result from the analysis.
Okay. And Secretary Livero, in January, in an interview with Space News, you suggested that a civil agency should perform certain day-to-day, non-military space situational awareness activities for commercial and foreign operators. Specifically, you stated that, quote, the JSPOC's primary role should be to support U.S. and allied military space operations, unquote. Do you support building the capability of a civilian agency to obtain space situational awareness data and perform limited SSA activities for commercial and foreign operators?
Congressman, I do. So this is obviously a very important question. The DoD is not going to go ahead and give up our ability to go ahead and do SSA for our warfighting mission. At the same time, we recognize that to fully support our commercial industries, we need to go ahead and put that on a more civil footing, one that not only can go ahead and do space traffic monitoring, which is what we do from the JSPOC today, but some level of space traffic management. The Congress recognized this in their legislation last year, and I think we recognize it as well. So I know with my colleagues up here, we're all trying to figure out what the right balance is between that. How do we do that? I think we all believe this has got to start off with a crawl, a walk, and a run, which we would believe would begin with putting probably FAA personnel out of the JSPOC to help that function. But we recognize that the future is going to require that a civil agency take over this far larger and growing sector than we should support from the DoD.
Thank you. And General Hyten, as the commander of Air Force Space Command, is performing space traffic management for the entire world in your mission statement?
No, sir, it's not.
If a civil agency were to perform some space traffic management activities for non-DoD customers, would that make it easier or harder for airmen at the JSPOC to focus on deterring fighting and winning wars in space?
That would make it easier, but I do have one comment about that, is that it's not in our mission to do those things, but what you have to realize is that we have to do those things in order for us to operate safely. So it is critical that we continue to perform the space situational awareness mission, and critical that we have the ability to integrate that into all of our other operations. But nonetheless, the ability to do space traffic management like Mr. Livero described, it's not in our mission statement. We do it because we have to do it. Somebody has to do it for the world, but it is more a civil function than it is a military function.
Fantastic. I've got just a few seconds left, and so we'll just take this for the record. Space and Missile Systems Center released an RFI seeking input from industry on commercial weather data and services to meet DoD requirements. Basically, it's a policy to buy data from the commercial sector to feed our numerical weather models and predict weather. Could DoD benefit from following NOAA's pilot program approach to begin the process of establishing standards, testing integration, and eventually buying data and services for weather purposes?
We'll take it for the record, sir, but the answer is yes, we're going to use all data capabilities that we can, but we'll take that and give you a detailed answer for the record.
Okay. I wanted to ask General Hyten, Air Force budget documents state that you will conduct an end-to-end over-the-air demonstration of protected tactical waveform in mid-2019. The Air Force apparently delayed the initial launch capability of protected tactical service by 3 years until 2027. What factors account for the delay to PTS? And why is there an 8-year gap between full-up PTW demo and ILC?
So the answer to the question, Congressman, is that we have yet to complete the Protected SATCOM Communication System AOA, the analysis of alternatives. Before we can start a program within the department, we need to complete the AOA. That AOA is imminent. We've completed it. Mr. Kendall, the Undersecretary for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics, has signed off on it, pushed that into CAPE. CAPE is now doing the sufficiency study. They've committed to completing that by April 15th. But as we submitted our budget documents, we had to make some assumptions of what we thought the future was going to be. And to us, it looked clear that protected tactical waveforms will be part of the architecture in the future. Therefore, it was important for us to pursue the Pathfinder that you saw in the budget documents. And then the rest is to be determined. So we don't want to put a program in place without the proper analysis having been completed, and that'll be complete here very shortly. And we'll share that with the Congress when it's complete.
Okay. Last question. I've been told that prior to this RD-180 issue, a new low-cost upper stage engine replacement had been a high priority for your national space security launch needs. If this is true, how do you plan to address the upper stage replacement, and is there a way to couple the development of this upper stage engine, such as those already funded and developed through the Small Business Innovation Research Program, in a manner that benefits replacement of the RD-180?
So in the contracts we just let with industry, in those contracts and those other transactional authority contracts, there are two pieces of it that look at upper stages. One is with SpaceX for their Raptor upper stage, and one is with the ULA for their ACES upper stage. Both of those are required in their business plan in the future to allow them to access all the orbital requirements that we have to launch our entire manifest. So, as you stated, the upper stage is extremely important. We've recognized that for a long time, long ahead of the RD-180 issue. It's a challenge, though, to get the capabilities that we need out of those upper stages. But if we do it correctly, we'll be able to move into a different architecture for the future that will be much more efficient, because the upper stage will be more efficient in achieving multiple orbits.
And last question, if the chairman will allow me, and this is for you as well, General Hyten. How does EGS relate to the requested Protected Tactical Enterprise Service?
EGS being the Enterprise Ground System?
Yes, Enterprise Ground Service.
So the Enterprise Ground capability, as we look at the Protected Tactical Waveform, what we're trying to get to with Enterprise Ground is we're trying to structure the process so that we can operate our satellites, perform telemetry, tracking, and controlling off of a common infrastructure in our ground system, so we can have our operators focus on providing the warfighting effect to the world, to our entire force structure across the board as we look at that. So it's important that we move into an enterprise ground structure, because that will free up our airmen to effectively operate the protected tactical waveform in a threatened environment as we go through. It's not that we can't do it on the legacy. We will be able to do it on the legacy, but in order for us to fully use our airmen capabilities, we need to structure the program so that we're focused on the effect that we're creating on the battlefields of the future, not on just flying the satellite.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.